In life, we all encounter obstacles, and those obstacles come in all different shapes, sizes, and forms. The question is, how do we handle those obstacles? Do we attack them head on, or do we allow them to make us quit? Welcome to the No Quit Living podcast, where we aim to motivate and inspire listeners to never give up on themselves, their dreams, or their goals. We will interview successful people from all walks of life as they share their no-quit stories when they had the choice to give up or give in, but they didn't. We thank you for listening, and we hope to be that jolt of positivity as you go for your greatness. Welcome to episode number 207 of the No Quit Living podcast. I'm your host, Christopher J. Worth, and today's theme of the day is second chances. Our quote of the day comes to us from Steve Earle. Every day on earth is another chance to get it right. Today's episode is sponsored by the good people over at West Fair Communications, who publish the Westchester County Business Journal and the Fairfield County Business Journal. These newspapers do a wonderful job in covering all aspects of the business world within two of the most influential markets in the New York metropolitan area. You can also take advantage of their daily news feeds, which keep track on the companies and thought leaders in these important regions. For more information, take a look at www.westfaironline.com. Trust me, once you start reading, you won't quit. I'm excited to bring you today's episode on second chances. Our guest hit rock bottom and was challenged in jail by his cellmate to not only change his life, but also his health. Doug Bopst did just that, and today he has taken what he has learned in jail and he is paying it forward for others. As a personal trainer, author of 3 books, and a speaker, Doug is taking advantage of that second chance by becoming the best version of himself. I hope you enjoy today's episode. Doug, I'd like to welcome you to the No Quit Living podcast.
Hey, Chris, thanks for having me.
I appreciate it. So the first question I ask everybody is, are you ready to bring it today?
Of course, let's go.
So the number one objective of our show is to motivate and inspire our listeners to never give up. And I was curious if you have either a no-quit story or perhaps a really challenging time that tested you, but you didn't give up or quit.
Yeah, I would say that the no-quit story that comes to mind for me when I was incarcerated on felony drug charges, I was in the depths of despair. I thought my life was over. I was having suicidal thoughts. I had a horrific drug addiction. And my cellmate, Eric, got me to start exercising. And at the time, I was 180, 190 pounds. Could have been a model for Pillsbury. And yeah, literally. And with his motivation and encouragement, I decided to give exercise a try. I remember getting down and do a push-up. Couldn't do a push-up, could barely even walk. And with his, fortitude and determination with me, he trained me in there every day and put me on a little meal plan. And I just felt like this switch changed, right? I felt like that I was going to be able to beat drug addiction. And I was able to do 10 push-ups and run a mile by the time I left jail. And the reason I think it's my no-quit moment is because there's a lot of people who go to jail and a lot of people who don't really, make the most of it. And for me, I really was fortunate enough to have a guy help me and then inspire me to make the most of my time in there to, reinvent myself, beat the demons I had inside of me. Working out gave me such a boost of self-confidence, self-esteem, commitment to myself, following through with the promises I made to myself, something I had never done before. And then, I had a lot of guilt and a lot of doubts when I was in there as well. Like, at first I didn't want to change. And then I just thought, what other choice do I have? And when I was, complaining and whining, Eric was like, my cellmate, he's like, Doug, you can either be a man or you can be a bitch. And he's like, you can be a man and you can own your problems. You can know that you got yourself here. It might not have been your fault, but it's your responsibility to fix it. He's like, you have the power within you to change your life. Or is it can be a bitch, like most people will be, cry in the corner, start blaming other people, feeling sorry for yourself. And while those words might not resonate with everyone, like where I came from, it wasn't cool to be called a bitch. So I was like, well, I better be a man, right? So I really took that to heart. And when I got out, I was so motivated by having this guy help change my life unconditionally that I followed the plan he gave me. I still have the plan framed in my place. I never forget where I came from. And I got out and lost 50 pounds and decided to get certified as a trainer to help other people use fitness to change their lives, and I've been a trainer now for about 8 years.
No, I think I love your honesty, and I appreciate you sharing that. And it's interesting. One of the things we talk about all the time on our show is no excuses, and either you'd make excuses or you go for your results, but you can't have both. And I just have to ask, so many people that are not in jail, that have 9 to 5 jobs and have the opportunity, still make excuses. And don't have the equipment and everything and all the nutritional supplements like people do out here, but you were able to change your life. So in addition to obviously Eric helping you along the way, what was it mentally that you were able to do, or how did you continue to go about it while you were incarcerated, just get after it and get in better shape?
I mean, yeah, when I was in jail, it was just your body weight, man. It wasn't like there was any like Equinoxes or elite gym equipment. There wasn't nutritional supplements. So it was just like, between your left ear and your right ear, and you had to really like change the way you talk to yourself. So for me, I was feeling sorry for myself. I was telling myself that I couldn't do things. I was always focusing on the negative, and in jail, I had nothing else to do but to focus on how I was going to get better, focus on the positives. And I knew that if I could just focus like on one day at a time, literally being a better version of myself every single day, that I had a chance to survive. And I had to adapt that mindset, because if I didn't, I wouldn't have made it. And, when I started working out, I really saw like not only the physical benefits, but how it made me feel mentally, and how it just really shifted my mind. And it was that it was up to me to make the choice. It was up to me if I wanted to lose weight. It was up to me if I wanted to beat drug addiction. It was up to me to change my friends. I mean, life's about choices, right? And I chose to escape life as a teenager by using and selling drugs, and that those choices got me incarcerated. And I had to make some different choices. And for me, the mental switch was in jail, learning that, I have to take responsibility for my own actions. I have the power within me to do great things, but it's up to me. It's not going to be up to anybody else.
I think that's so important, is it is up to you. And I think when it goes back to talking about excuses or your results, I think anybody, it doesn't matter what your goal or objective is, you have to make that decision that you're going to become a better version of yourself, or you're going to become better at this goal or objective or this skill set. So I wanted to ask you, Doug, if you wouldn't mind just telling our listeners a little bit about exactly what you're doing today in the fitness world.
Yeah, so I mean, I've been a trainer now for about 8 years. I first got certified in April of 2011, and I started working at a local wellness center, which was really tough to get a job at first, because I was a convicted felon, and I had to check the box that I had been convicted of a felony charge and explain what it was. And after going through multiple interviews and HR stuff, I finally was hired and given a shot. After really literally promising to pee in a cup every single day, because I just felt like fitness had changed my life, and I was ready to help others use it to change theirs. And by the grace of God, I knew it was in the right place, the right time, and things aligned where I built a really successful training business there. And time kind of flew by, and my probation was up, and I completed all the stipulations the judge gave me when I went to court. And he took the felony conviction off my record and gave me the PBJ, which was one of the stipulations of my sentence when I went to court. And fitness helped me do that. Fitness led me to want to help other people. Fitness led me to become a better person. Fitness led me to my faith in God. Fitness led me to want to surround myself with other people. Fitness led me to know that it's on me to be responsible for myself, my own body, my health, and be committed to something, even though when it sucks, right? And so I wanted to use those lessons to inspire other people. So my clients range from business executives, stay-at-home moms, people who are just looking to get back into shape. But a good bit of my business, is also people who are in recovery and using fitness to help with drug addiction, which is something that has really helped me. I've been in recovery now for about 10 and a half years. Almost 10 and a half years, I guess. And I've been doing it, and I love it. It doesn't really feel like work to me. I love just, what really drives me. It's not when people lose weight. It's not when people do an extra push-up. That's all cool, but it's when they really see the mental and emotional benefits of working out is what really gets me.
I think it's awesome that you're out here now and you're paying it forward, and obviously you reference executives and stay-at-home mothers, but you also touched on people that are in recovery as well. And I think that, to me, just epitomizes what we talk about all the time in No Quit Living, is paying it forward for others with zero expectations in return. And I loved how you said that you've helped these people realize things. And that, to me, is the best payment. Obviously, there's the financial compensation, but the reality is when you work, you get compensated monetarily. But when you can pay it forward to the extent and the concept that you're making a positive impact or having a positive impact on someone else's life, that's amazing. So kudos for that, and I wish you continued success. And it appears that you're doing all the right things. So congrats on that. And wanted to ask you, if you had to define yourself, but you could only use one word, what would that word be?
I would just say it's resilient. I mean, because there was many times where life throws you curveballs, and whether it's just in your own head, right? You telling yourself, man, you're never going to make it through this probation. You're never going to make it through jail. I had a lot of people doubting me, not believing me. I mean, there's times I didn't even believe in myself, but I knew I had to I know that the term "fake it till you make it" is kind of cliche, but I literally had to, because I know if I didn't believe in myself or force myself to, I would have never made it. And there was times I wanted to quit. There was times where it sucked getting out of bed and going for a run. There was times my cellmate was writing me letters and was like, dude, stop being a wuss. Get out there and get yourself some sweatpants and go for a run in a 20 degree weather. And, it's funny, man. I mean, people think that when you get into recovery and you get clean and all that stuff, that life gets easier. I mean, it gets real. It gets real hard, because all the masks come off and you got to really deal with your own problems, and you got to figure out where you went wrong, and then try to rebuild your life with healthier things. And for me, things, like faith. And, I'm a Christian. I don't jam it down people's throats, but it's what's worked for me. Faith is also faith in myself, right? I think, John Gordon talks a lot about faith and fear, how you can't be fearful and faithful at the same time, right? So having faith in yourself, faith that you're going to do great things in life, family, surrounding yourself with great people, and then fitness, being mentally, spiritually, and physically fit. And if you can do those three things, I believe, you will succeed in recovery, you'll live a more purpose-driven life, and you'll become a better version of yourself.
So speaking of John Gordon, I'm a huge fan of John's, and I actually met you through Damon West, who I met through John. Wanted to ask you if you're reading anything currently, or if you've read something recently that you'd like to recommend to our listeners.
I love John Gordon too. I was really thankful to connect with him actually before I started my third book, and he's a great guy. And I've read most of his books. I actually, recommend his book, The Energy Bus and The Carpenter, all the time to people. So I've read those. I mean, just speaking of John Gordon, but the most recent book I read this book by a guy named Rich Roll. He wrote this book called Finding Ultra, which is his journey, of transformation. And it's an incredible story about how he went, he struggled with addiction, and then he was a corporate lawyer, and he was unhealthy, and then he's now one of the fittest men in the world, and it's just crazy. The athletic feats this guy's accomplished, super inspiring. And I highly recommend it for anybody who just loves a feel good story, and then also somebody who's battling with adversity. I mean, the book's awesome, and I couldn't put it down.
So I'm not sure if our listeners picked up on what you said, though, is your third book. So that's incredible. So why don't you tell us a little bit? I know before we went live, you had, I believe, your most recent book, The Heart of Recovery, came out last month. So why don't you tell us a little bit about not only that, but also your other books as well?
Yeah, Chris. So, I got to say, I'm really thankful in that I have kind of looked back, and one of my clients pointed this out to me a few months ago. He's like, Doug, have you ever realized that your books you've written are a reflection of where you were at in your journey? And I was like, I've never really thought about it that way. And, I wrote my first book, From Felony to Fitness to Free, right after the felony came off my record, because I wanted to inspire people to make the most of their second chance, turn a negative into a positive, and focus on how far they've come and not how far they have to go, but also that life's about choices, right? A lot of the insecurities I was battling as a kid was stuff that a lot of people deal with. I was bullied, I was abused, my parents were divorced, I was overweight, I was unathletic, but I was passionate about sports. These are problems that people deal with all the time, right? And we're all looking for that escape. And now it's obviously it's drugs, video games, and everything. But for me, it was drugs. But I made that choice, right, to get myself in that scenario where I went down that rabbit hole of drug addiction. And I could have dealt with it a bunch of different other ways, I guess. If I had the knowledge I have now. And also when I was in jail, I had to make a big choice to embrace fitness. I could have just told this guy to go pound sand numerous times and just sat in my cell and cried, which I did a lot of that. But I embraced it, and I was like, you know what? Let's give this thing a try. I have nothing else to lose. And it was life or death for me, man. And so my second book family, and fitness, which is the top 15 lessons I've learned in my life, with corresponding action steps and Bible verses. And if you kind of you can take and pick what you want out of it. I mean, I think it's a really good read for anybody, despite your views on religion, because it's really just self-help, personal development. And I wrote that book right after I gave my life over to God about a little less than 5 years ago. So that was like where I was at that point in my life. And now my newest book, The Heart of Recovery, I'm on a mission to help do what I can with this drug epidemic, because it's getting out of control. So many lives are being lost, families being ruined, and like dreams of people are being crushed. So I was like, well, what can I do to help? And I'm like, I'm not a therapist. I don't really want to get in the treatment business. So the one thing I like to do is write, and I'm passionate about fitness. And I've always like looked at like me not going to AA. I didn't get sober in AA or anything, and like how I've done it. And the way I've done it is, well, I've taken care of my body. I've worked out, right? I've surrounded myself with great people. And I've had a spirituality practice that works for me. And I'm also very self-aware now of what I need to do on a daily basis to keep away from that stuff. And so I was like, I must not be the only person who's really kind of doing this thing. So I wanted to seek out, other people who are really thriving in recovery and their top tips and tricks on what they do, what kind of workout plans they're practicing, what kind of people they hang out with and why, what kind of spirituality practices, resonate with them. And from different walks of life, from different walks of recovery, to inspire people to get into recovery in whatever way works for them. And I got to tell you, man, it's really changed a lot of people's lives. I mean, the book's done very well. People are really loving it. I mean, it's an easy read. There's 50 different interviews in there, all different people. Some names you recognize, some names you won't. And I'm just really excited to see where it takes me.
It's incredible that you've taken where you are, and I loved how you touched on and you were extremely candid with the choices that you've made. And I think it's something that Damon West spoke about, and I know, again, mentioning his name, but that's how you and I connected, is your past doesn't define you. And I think it's what you do with those obstacles, those challenges. And like you said, we all have those choices to make. So need to ask you, being a fitness freak myself, and I'm a morning ritual guy, is I want to ask you if you have a morning ritual that you swear by.
I would say the thing that I feel good most about doing is I just get up like before the sun rises and I go for like a nice like run. It's like a moving meditation for me. It's not really like, I don't go like, 6 or 7, miles an hour or whatever. But, for me, it's just being able to kind of just meditate and walk and think about my thoughts and be with God and just think about what I have to do for that day. And some of my best thoughts come from when I'm running. My best ideas come from when I'm running.
Now, do you always remember them, or do you bring your phone or something? That's something that I encounter all the time, is when I'm working out, I get all these ideas and things come to me, and I always have my phone with me, and I'll literally go into the notes section and just type stuff out.
Yeah, I mean, I always kind of have my phone, and I'll either voice record something, or I'll write something in the notes section too. But it just all depends on what I'm doing. I mean, sometimes I'll remember it because it's like something I'm doing like right after I get done running. But other times I'm like, dang, I better write that down because it was a good idea. But it just also proves that how great, working out is for like cognitive thinking and for your mental fitness and your mental wellness. Because I mean, think about it; those thoughts, come when you're moving, right? And if you move more, you're going to feel better. And if you feel better, you're going to be more confident. If you're more confident, you're going to be able to attack all the other areas in your life with ease. So I highly recommend getting some moving done in the morning.
No, I love that, because I think it's important. And for me, the days that I don't get going in the morning is I don't feel the same. And it's interesting, but I think it's what you said before, is that everybody has their own routines, and some people do it after work, some people do it in the evening. But I think the important thing is that you actually do it, and whatever works for you. And that's one of the reasons why I love asking those questions, because the whole hope is that we help inspire our listeners to think differently. And for those that are looking to get more into fitness, or more into reading or journaling or meditating, or just in general becoming a better version of themselves, the reason why I love asking these questions is to provide them with things to make them think differently and thought-provoking. Say, hey, maybe try this, or let me tweak that. So I appreciate you touching on that. One of the things we try to dissect quite often is the word accountability. I wanted to ask you, what does the word accountability mean to you?
I mean, the word accountability just means, staying true to who you are and keeping yourself in check, right? And I think accountability is like a weird word. People get scared because they don't want to like be held in check. They don't want people to like call them out when they're not doing something right. And I just think it's humbling yourself to know and being okay with, if you don't do something, if you're not doing something right, that you either call yourself out on it, or you have no problem with somebody you're close to calling yourself out on your BS as well. I mean, because otherwise, like, you're going to end up straying so far from where you want to go, because you're afraid to, humble yourself and know that you were wrong.
No, I think that's a great definition, and it is humbling yourself, and it's also, holding yourself accountable, but it's also knowing that you have people that hold you accountable as well. So if you could go back and give the 20-year-old version of yourself one piece of advice, what would that be?
Stop sweating the small stuff. I think for me, I was trying to fit in. I was worried about what other people thought of me. I mean, even the people that I was worried about what they thought of me, I haven't seen in years, right? And just also know that the way somebody treats you isn't a reflection on you; it's a reflection on them. I mean, from the abuse and the bullying and a lot of stuff I dealt with as a kid, I took it personally. I guess I'm human, and most kids probably do. But looking back now, I realize, like, it wasn't me; it was them, and I let it get to me, and I really let it almost ruin my life.
No, it's interesting how we go back in life, and the people that we were, I don't want to say fixated, but the people we're really focused on impressing, and not that they're not good people or important, but the reality of what you just said is those people aren't in your life today, but they have an impact on our life back then. And I think it's important to take it all into perspective of what's important to you today and what's important to you right now. So I appreciate you touching on that for a minute. If I could give you the opportunity to have dinner with anybody, dead or alive, who would you pick and why?
Who would I pick? Man, I don't know. I probably have to say Gary Vaynerchuk. He's somebody he was one of the first personal development guys I ever followed. And I absolutely love what the guy stands for. I mean, I know he cusses a lot, and a lot of people don't like that, but I mean, that's just who he is. And I love how authentic he is. I love how he pretty much like calls like what the next thing is going to be. And he's just super authentic. I have had the opportunity to meet him in person a few months ago, and he was just super cool, super real. I just think he's like a normal dude. I mean, I really like that about him. Plus, he's been very successful in business. So anytime I can pick the brain of somebody who's been successful in business and in life, I mean, I'm all about it.
No, he would be a great choice. And the thing that I don't know if most people know about Gary Vee is they see him now all over social media. But what I love about Gary Vee is that he took a wine business that he had from his father, and he was working with him, and he took it to a whole new level. And if you actually go back and research, you can still pull up the videos that he used to do all the time way back when. And not only is he talking the talk now, but he also walked it way back then. So I think that's an interesting perspective. And most people don't know his story. So I would recommend, if our listeners don't know much about him, just take a minute or two to research him, because even though he's all over social media and he's one of the top speakers in the country and in the world, he did back it up for so many years. So I think that's the interesting part, because a lot of people, don't know his true story.
And I think to another one too, obviously John Gordon is somebody I'd love to actually sit down and have dinner with. I mean, because I think I'd be positive for like a month. I think I'd have enough positivity from a dinner with him for a month. I mean, the guy is so positive. Another guy who I started reading his books like very early on in my business career, and I think the first book I read of his was The Carpenter, or it was the Energy Bus, and there was Training Camp too. I mean, I've been a huge fan of his, and he's just so real. He's so authentic. I mean, and just what he's doing now with the whole positivity movement. I mean, we need it. I mean, and I think that to follow up on that, not to get off on a tangent, but it's so important to be positivity. And I know people they shake their heads at it and they're like, well, like, you can't just make up positivity and pretend it's not. I'm like, yeah, I mean, you definitely want to acknowledge if you're 100 pounds overweight that's not positive, right? But if you have to be positive about your way of doing it, or you're not going to if you're negative and being like, I'm never going to do it, this sucks, I suck, you're not going to get anywhere. But if you have a positive attitude about it and you're faithful and you believe in yourself, you're going to overcome those negative obstacles. And I think a lot of people miss that. They think, well, just because you're being positive, it just means that you're painting your entire life as being positive. No, you still have to acknowledge that there's some stuff in your life that sucks, because we're never going to be perfect, but just having a positive attitude about it.
I could not agree more. And I think I think what people miss with a whole positive attitude as well is that you have to put in the action. It's not just enough to think positive and read a positive book or watch a positive video. That's obviously important and has an impact, but you have to go ahead and actually put in the action. And one of my all-time favorite quotes, and I probably talk about this once every 4 or 5 episodes, is a quote by Albert Hubbard, which is, positive anything is better than negative nothing. And I just think it's such a simple quote, but it just means so much.
Yeah, I mean, that's an awesome one. I think the other one I've heard too, I don't know if it's from John or not, but it says a positive attitude may not guarantee you success, but a negative attitude guarantees you won't have it. So, and I think also when they say that when the going gets tough, the tough gets going. And I would also add on to that, the going gets tough, the tough gets going. But if the tough doesn't get going, you're shit out of luck, because you gotta go, and you got to believe in yourself, and you got to be committed. And I think a lot of times in life we're interested, not committed. It's only we do things when they're easy, when they feel good, when the spark's there, when the motivation's there. But the real commitment comes in when you're not feeling as motivated, when you're feeling like crap, when you're not up to doing something, when you're tired and you're stressed. You're still putting in the work, being consistent, and staying true to who you are and what you want to do.
No, I definitely agree. And it comes down to when things are going great, it's easy to put into work, but those tough days and those tough times, that's when you really need to, lace them up and get after it.
It's funny, man. In my business, training and fitness, it's we all know the mental, physical, and emotional benefits of working out. But it's funny, when people get stressed out or they're anxious or they're depressed, they seem to put that to the wayside. And I'm like, that's the thing you should be doing most. Is the thing that's proven to make you feel better is fitness, is working out, is getting those good endorphins going, is movement. And I'm not saying you have to go run a marathon, but just going for a walk. And it's funny, we tend to throw away the simplest things in life that can have the most profound impact on us when we're going through the toughest times when we need them most. Whether it's God, whether it's fitness, whether it's your family or people that are close to you that you need, or going to therapy. I mean, whatever it is. And but we just put all our focus on sometimes in work, and we put 99% of our energy into the problem, not into the solution. And we end up just shooting ourselves in the foot sometimes.
No, it's so important that you need to figure out the solution. It's key that you obviously identify what that problem is, but it comes to a point where you can't just continually focus on it. You have to go ahead and say, okay, I know what the problem is. Now I need to figure out the solution. So I wanted to ask you, what's the best way for our listeners to connect or follow you?
I mean, I would say I'm most active on Instagram. So at Doug_Bopst. That's DOUG_BOPST. And then my books are available on Amazon. I mean, I'd really appreciate if you want to check them out, if they resonate with you and you think it might inspire you or a loved one. If you could buy them, it would mean a lot. If not, that's cool too. I mean, again, I'm not forcing anybody to do anything, but that's the best way to connect with me.
Awesome. And then before we let you go, Doug, wanted to ask if you have some parting words you'd like to leave with our listeners.
Yeah. I mean, I think the biggest thing that I think many people struggle with when they're going through life is they're always looking ahead to the future, and they're thinking about all the things they haven't done in life. They're thinking about the things they haven't accomplished. They're thinking about the money they haven't made, or the sober time they haven't gotten, or the weight they haven't lost. But what I always tell people to do is to remember how far you've come, not how far you have to go. Because we put so much stock in what the things that we don't have, haven't done, aren't doing, and we really forget to acknowledge the things we are doing and have done. So that's important to remember.
No, I think that's great advice, and it goes along hand in hand with some of the stuff we talk about all the time, which is remember those small victories, because all those small victories compounded lead to those huge successes. So, Doug, listen, my man, I truly appreciate your time and definitely recommend our listeners to check you out and to follow you on Instagram, as well as your not one, not two, but 3 books.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to episode number 207. If Doug was able to lose weight and get in much better shape while in jail, then what are our excuses? Fitness changed Doug's life, and today he is using what he has learned, and he is changing the lives of others. Doug was very real on today's episode when he spoke about life being full of choices. He admitted that his poor choices put him in jail, but with the help of his cellmate, he decided to change. It wasn't easy or simple, but Doug put in the work, and today he continues to work hard and also surrounds himself with the right people. In his parting words, Doug shared something that I thought was very important. He suggested that we don't look ahead to everything that we haven't yet done, but instead we should focus on the positives and look at how far we have come. So my question to you is just that. What do you focus on? Do you focus on what you haven't done? All those things that you quote unquote need to do? Or perhaps you keep a positive attitude as you look at all your successes, and then as you go ahead and attack each and every single day, obstacle, or challenge. As you go for your greatness today, I would like to close today's episode with a great quote by Zig Ziglar. Positive thinking won't let you do anything, but it'll let you do everything better than negative thinking will. And lastly, to our listeners, thank you. We truly appreciate your time, and we hope our episodes inspire you to keep on attacking life and never giving up. To quote Dr. Norman Vincent Peale, it's always too early to quit.